Could we have our helpers come together to bring us our red champagne, our red sparkling wine, so we can make a toast? And maybe Oli, maybe you should go back and get some of the punch for you kids to have for our toast.
Greetings, everyone. I'm David Storlie. I am Lee's son-in-law and the husband of Rachel Storlie. And from the very first moment, I became aware of Lee in my life. I'm from Spring Grove. He's from California. I knew him as a person who hosted exchange students, hosted people in his life, welcomed them into his home. I've had some very good friends who were exchange students in Spring Grove and in other cities, and I always wanted to become one. Well, I've gotten chances to travel, and so I really appreciate what he's been working on all this time. And then I became more involved in his life through Rachel, and saw that every time, almost every time, I would get to meet with him, he would have more exchange students with him, and people from everywhere. So I've been really pleased to meet a great number of the people he's hosted or has been involved in hosting throughout the years. And I realized that of all these people that he's welcomed into his life, accepted into his life, I was the only one so far that's kind of just forced himself into it. But I've been well received. And so I'd like to make a toast to someone through their persistence in keeping up friendships and welcoming people into his life and never letting go, that he truly deserves this award. A toast to Lee. Jill, I'll welcome you back up here to introduce the next section.
So we'll let that champagne sink in with Lee a bit before we get his response. No. So we're very happy to have Lee choose to have this event here as well. And he said, oh, we have to come over to the Heritage Center because he's quite a volunteer here as well. And he does a lot of good things for this community. I hope you had a chance to look at some of the pictures and some of the response that came through on the internet that Rachel created in this board in the back of the room. You can do it later, it'll be there. We kept all the comments from Facebook when Jacob and Rachel and me and everybody was passing on that he was getting this award. So those are on there too, at least the ones for the first couple of days. So, Lee, I'd like to invite you up here and have a few words.
Mange tusen tack. Det var så hyggelig du kommer till Spring Grove.
Yeah. This is really wonderful. Thank you all for coming. It's going to stay lighter later today, so you'll get home without the deer. So anyway,
When I think about this award, I think about the enthusiasm that I've had for being Norwegian. Of course, I'm Swedish too, but my Swedish students, when they had that party for me back 5 years ago in Norway, Bengt came over and he said, you know, I talked to Maria, that was our other exchange student from Sweden, and he said, we've decided we're going to send you a ticket. And I thought, oh, when you're 100. I said, oh no, the next big birthday is 75, so just remember that. So, well, I haven't heard anything yet, but I think I'm going to Norway for Christmas, hopefully, and then I'm going to go to Sweden first. So maybe I'll do something there. Maybe I'll get a ticket to who knows. But when I think about getting interested in my Norwegian, I always was very close to my grandparents, and they were, my grandpa was Norwegian and Swedish, but I grew up on that farm those first 3 years I was alive because my dad was in Germany in the service, and so Mom and I lived at the farm. And just being around the farm and the family, I really inherited a wonderful sense of community there. And when I was teaching in Caledonia, there was a young lady that came to Caledonia to teach in the middle of the year. And I started being her social director. And she would love to go any place. We go and we had picnics, but then we went to Decorah, and that's a connection to here because we went to an auction back in 1968 in the spring, and Gail bought one of Sigmund Arset's paintings, and he's the one that's did all these beautiful murals that Bill's going to tell us about. So I have a connection to Sigmund. And we had that beautiful picture, we had it framed and it hung in our living room for many years. And now Gail has it. And I think it's, when Sigmund was here, when you did those big pictures, you know, I brought that painting. And I got a picture of Sigmund out there by the popcorn stand in the cinema. Him standing there by that picture. But that was a exciting thing to be able to have that to show him too. And he remembered it. It was just a piece of masonite that he painted it on, and it was funny because when we got that painting, I said to Gail, gosh, this will look nice in our house. And she said, is that a proposal? But Gail was always, she encouraged my interest in Norway. And there were so many things that I got involved with because of her inspiration and her dealing, just like the exchange students. I had heard this ad on the radio about this exchange program. Why have you never heard of it? And I kept playing it over and over. So I went, I sent for a application. And I filled it out, and we were going to my sister's in Aurora, Illinois, and so Gail said, well, what did you do with that application? I said, oh, I threw it away. We don't have kids. You know, what? That wouldn't work. And she said, well, you know, if it didn't work, they placed it in another, family. But, you know, she was the one that always encouraged that on, and we did. When we got home from Chicago, I filled it out and sent it in on a Monday. And on Friday, we had a wonderful young man from Norway coming to us. And Eilif was our first student, and that was 1974, and that's when we started working with YFU. And we've had over 500 students we've placed. We've had 27 with us. And then I just placed a boy from Australia with the Caledonia family for this next year now. So I'm still doing it as a volunteer. It's a lot of paperwork, though. But we have a young man from Australia here with the family this year, and it's just a wonderful chance to really get to know that culture. But also I think about some of the other things that we did as Norwegian-Americans was when they first started Nordic Fest, Gail and I worked at the armory down in Decorah, in that hot armory in a hot July. And in those days, everybody wore their wool bunads, those heavy, warm bunads. There was no air conditioning in that armory, but that's where Gail would sit, and she'd be doing something, either selling, or were you doing hardummer?
No, not hardummer.
But we were working in the food stand or something, but it was so hot in there. And that was the first thing I did when I got home was take a shower. But she worked with that hot bunad, and even when they remodeled the Vesterheim, then I was right inside where people would come in, and it was still hot, but there was a fan, so at least they didn't have a fan down in the armory, but that was one thing. But she also helped with Norskadalen when Rachel and Jacob were both in Virgulin dancers for many years, and she'd be down there helping. I'll never forget the time that Rachel was doing the hulling with one of the boys down there at the Arboretum at Norskadalen, but a lot of times she was just working on so many different projects. So I want to give a tribute to my Gail, because she really inspired me, and I appreciate it. Anyway, this is a wonderful time to have all these friends together, and I just appreciate the whole idea, and I wish Trond was here. If you come back next Thursday, Trond will be here to tell his side of the story. He had a lot of people write letters, and I love to see those letters. But there's so many other groups that we've worked with. You know, I just got my 50-year membership in Sons of Norway here last Saturday. So, and that's been a lot of things. So, but there's so many things that you get involved with. There's always somebody out there that's looking for a Norwegian. So, so anyway, long and some talk, and God bless you.
There's always someone out there looking for a Norwegian. Roy gave me a little push. You know those Norwegians, I think everybody wants to be Norwegian. And I live in Norway every summer, and I get that kind of comment too. And everyone wants to know if I'm going to move there permanently. And I say, oh, I have a lot of good things going back in Spring Grove in Minnesota. And they can't understand why someone wouldn't want to move to Norway. I didn't say I didn't want to, I just didn't going on. But it's great that Roar can come over here. He reminded me when I got dressed today, and I'm sorry I didn't wear my vestdrag, as I had some of you guys do, thank you very much. But he said, oh, you look like a Norwegian-American. I said, well, thank you, right? And he said, oh, we wouldn't wear a lusekofte back in Norway. They wouldn't wear this sweater like this. And I said, well, why not? Would you wear a genser, you know, the pullover? Yeah, if they're going to be outside or skiing, but you look too old-fashioned when you do this. And Norwegians say to me, oh, I think you people in Spring Grove are more Norwegian than we are. And I think many of you hear that kind of thing. I have heard of Norwegians sending their kids over here, or grandchildren even, to learn how to make Norwegian pastries, and to North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa. So interesting. It's always fun to be at Nordic Fest or somewhere that they come through, the Norwegians, and they're just pleased, but a little shocked how we celebrate something. Our 7th of Mai here is how many days long?
3.
3 days in Spring Grove. How many days is it in Norway? We actually have 4 days this year because here in Spring Grove, our Barndomsminne, the kids parade that we've now had for 3 years, started it up again. They leave from the church, come down the parade, down the main street and go to the Viking Memorial Park. And then the Sons of Norway treats them with goodies, and they have a maypole that they can experience, and that's always been fun. So we actually have 4 days of the 17th of May. So now I'm very pleased to introduce Jacob Grippen on the guitar and his sister Rachel. I believe they've sung together before. Is that true? And I'd like to have you come up and announce what you're doing. Sure. Do you want this or should we?
Outside. Well, when we were discussing what we should do, I thought, well, this space is not really conducive to hiring one of my usual pianists to do a Norwegian art song or something like that. So instead we came up with something that's quite new to both of us. It's called Barndomsminne fra Nordland. And I've never heard this, and I find that a little strange because being involved with the Grippen family as long as I have, I know a lot of Norwegian folk songs. But have you heard of this, Ruar? This song?
No.
Have you heard of it, Ivan? Yeah, I haven't either, so maybe it's modern, I'm not sure. But I think it's also in the Bergen or dialect, so if I butcher the language, I just apologize in advance. But I told Jacob it's going to be, first we talk the the English translation, and then we'll sing it. So, oh, I know of a land far away in the north, with a shimmering strand between high mountains and fjords. There I long to be a guest. There my heart is fastened with the finest bands. Oh, I remember so well this land. And I so often long to see this land, and it pulls on me when I am long away. With the awakening spring, my longing becomes so sore that I almost cry. Almost cry, I can. Oh, I remember so well this land. And we hope that as we try to go through this song that my dad will remember all of his good times and good memories that tether him to both the United States and Norway. And please again forgive any inconsistencies with language.
I'm sorry. Something is off. Sorry. A little bit better.
Okay.
Og jeg vet meg et land langt der oppe mot nord, med en lysende strand mellom høge fjell og fjord. Der er gjerne grest, der mitt hjerte er fest, med den finaste vand. Og jeg minnes, og jeg minnes, og jeg minnes så vel dette land. Og jeg minnes, og jeg minnes, og jeg minnes så vel dette land. Der ei fjellstig mot sky, mitt så krøn av snø, og i blakna gni, disse spelar i sjø, og de smiler mot strand, med si bringa i brann, i den solklare kveld. Og jeg lengtar så tid, dette inn, dette sjå, og det dreg meg så blid.